This video is sponsored by HBO Max, where you can find a lot of hit movies, TV series, award-winning specials and documentaries, and my personal favorite, a number of retro movies, television shows, and cartoons from our collective childhoods. If you don't have HBO Max and you're interested in trying it out, click the link in the description where you can get a 7-day free trial to HBO Max. Thank you, HBO Max, and enjoy this video. Hi, I'm Andre, and something fun that I've been enjoying doing on this channel is telling you my first stories, the first time that I saw some of the movies that I absolutely love. So when I got reached out to by HBO Max and they asked me to talk about a movie that I love that's also on HBO Max, and I found out that they have both Gremlins and Gremlins 2, and I've talked so much about how much I love Gremlins on this channel and how I'm a big fan of both of those movies. So this is my Gremlins story, talking about how I saw the first Gremlins and Gremlins 2, the new batch, for the very first time. I think one of the reasons why I really love the first Gremlins movie, in addition to it just being a great film that has a little bit of horror, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of camp, and of course, those wonderful puppets and animatronics of that cute Mogwai Gizmo, and of course, those evil gremlins. But the first Gremlins feels like that first movie that I saw that I was like, this is a movie that adults watch too. Of course, I saw a lot of animated films and things like that, but when I think about that first movie that was like, okay, this is a mainstream film that people of all ages are watching, what are some of the first movies like that I saw? Gremlins is actually one of those first ones. Feeling like, yeah, this is my first foray into moviedom. And Gremlins is also special to me because I used to be very afraid of them. So the first time that I really remember even hearing about the Gremlins is from a fast food restaurant. There was a fast food restaurant campaign where you could buy these Gremlin books, and they came with records. There were 5 of them. And they basically told the entire story of the movie, and they actually had this original artwork that they made for the books. I read the first one and was like, oh, this is cute, Gizmo's cute, I'm liking this story, Billy seems cool. Second book, I'm like, oh, Gizmo's still cute. Oh my gosh, he's multiplied because he got wet. Oh, what is this eating after midnight? Oh, why is there a shadowy figure of a creature in one of the pages? Or why is there an arm coming out reaching for Gizmo? And then by the time I saw what a gremlin looked like, I was like, nope, done. It's funny because I actually remember that we had a yard sale one time and I sold those books because I just couldn't look inside of them because I was so nervous and afraid. And it's funny because I probably should have kept them because I ended up buying those books again years later online for way more than I paid for back then. Actually, I didn't even pay for it all. My parents gave it to me. So, you know, dumb. So the first time that I was actually able to see Gremlins was when they, ironically, aired on HBO. The first movie came to HBO and I knew it was there and I wanted to watch it because I was all curious about it. But at the same time, that fear was still in there, so I got nervous. One time, the movie aired on Saturday morning. So I remember actually watching Saturday morning cartoons, and then at certain moments during the commercials, flipping over to see what Gremlins looked like, but then flipping back. So the first time I flipped, I was like, okay, cool, flip back. Flipped over again, oh, look at Gizmo, cute, cool, flip back. I flipped over, and I remember it was the actual scene where the Gremlins are driving the snowplow, Mr. Funderman's snowplow, into his house. And I was like, whoa, 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 back to the Care Bears. So my parents ended up watching the movie, thought it was totally harmless. Andre, you gotta watch this movie. We think you would like it. So they made me watch the movie, get over my fear. And I'm glad they did because I absolutely love the movie. There's so many elements of it that I just love. I love Gizmo. He's so cute. He's just really adorable. And of course, him driving in that car at the end, battling Stripe. The Gremlins, yeah, they're scary. They can be scary. I mean, they attack you in Christmas trees. They drive snowplows through your house. They'll grab your arms in mailboxes. But they also will hang out in movie theaters. Sure, they also attack and hurt and harm and even kill a couple of people. But you know what? The Gremlins, they're fun. Except for Stripe, he's not fun. He's a leader and he's evil. They hang out in bars, playing video games, playing cards. Don't cheat them in cards. That is not a good idea. But hey, they also break dance. Mega madness. Thank you to the movie Dear White People for that bit about Gremlins that I have actually had that conversation before about. I also really like Billy. I just feel like I could relate to him. I mean, he was kind of like this nerdy guy that was just trying to have a better life. Also liked to draw cartoons and comics. I was really interested in drawing, so I was like, I can relate to this. And also Phoebe Cates. He got to be with Kate, Phoebe Cates in the movie. That's not a bad deal. And of course, once again, gotta remind you, thanks to Gremlins, that's why we got that PG-13 rating. That whole gremlin in the microwave, gremlin in the blender. Thanks, you created a movie rating because of that. I really enjoyed the movie and I realized that those fears were not needed. Yeah, it did get a little scary at times, but it was still entertaining. But every time I see it, I will leave my lights on. I didn't mention that, but after I saw Gremlins the first time, I was all like, I'm not afraid. But then I did turn all my lights on and look underneath my beds and in my closets after I saw the film, because you never can tell. There just might be a gremlin in your house. There's actually a lot of Gremlins in my house now because I collect the figures. I just loved Gremlins, but it was one of those things where I just loved the movie. It wasn't seen as a franchise yet. That wasn't until Gremlins 2 came along, and that was an interesting experience for me. Because after seeing Gremlins, I thought I had gotten past my fear of Gremlins until Gremlins 2 came along, and I had a relapse. Because Gremlins 2 came out of nowhere for me. The first time I saw anything about Gremlins 2 was actually in the movie theater. So they showed all these trailers for different movies before the movie came on, and I just remember this ominous sound, and then just water and a little drip, boop, and it's all like, remember the last time? We told you not to put them in light. We told you not to feed them after midnight. And we told you never to get them wet. You didn't listen. And the water disappears and shows the Gremlins 2 logo. And then all of a sudden Gremlins are popping up on the screen. This is the first time that I ever saw Gremlins on a big screen. Up to this point, Gremlins have always been on a little television. This was back in the days where we didn't have 70-inch, 90-inch TVs. So I'm talking about like a regular normal TV. Gremlins are like this. Now all of a sudden Gremlins are like this. Going, you know? And then one of them talks at the end. Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized. I'm like, what's going on? And it all came back. All the fears came back. All the scares came back. I was afraid of these Gremlins once again. But to be fair, the Gremlins in Gremlins 2 look a lot more realistic. They got the legendary creature creator Rick Baker to come in and make all these different types of Gremlins. They were a little bit scarier. And especially in the trailer where you got to see like the spider gremlin and the talking brain gremlin. I was like, huh? I remember my cousins and my friends and everybody like, yeah, man, Gremlins 2, we gotta see Gremlins 2. And I'm just like, no. There was even a point where we could have saw Gremlins 2 in the theaters, and I got so afraid that I actually convinced my friends to just hang out in the mall instead. The fear was real. I don't know what happened. I was older, I was wiser, I'd already seen the first one. Why was I having this relapse fear of Gremlins 2? It just came back. I don't know why, but it did. But eventually, I had to get over my fear. I knew this had to happen. So when the movie came out on VHS, you didn't think I was gonna go to the theater to see it. No, baby steps. The movie comes out on VHS. And so I rented. It was actually a very special rental. So something I used to do all the time is I would rent a movie and then I would rent the video game based on the movie at the same time. So I did that with Gremlins 2. I rented Gremlins 2 the movie and Gremlins 2 the video game at the same time. So I watched Gremlins 2 the new batch on VHS. And oh my gosh, I'm really sad that I did not go see it in theaters when I had the chance, because oh my gosh, I love this movie. It's so good. It's so freaking good. What I love about Gremlins 2, for me particularly, is that it is so my style of humor. I love gags. I love Looney Tunes-esque humor. I love breaking the fourth wall. I love being meta. And this movie does all of that in 1990. Keep that in mind. I mean, sure, today it's very common to see a lot of this stuff happen in your Deadpools and whatnot, but back then, it was kind of a big deal to be meta, especially in a film. You saw it in cartoons, but you didn't see it a lot of times in movies themselves. So for Gremlins 2 to go all the way to the point of bringing in Leonard Maltin, who didn't like the first film, to talk about not liking the first film in the second film, then getting attacked by gremlins, to have a bat gremlin fly through the window and create the Batman symbol. Oh, to have a bat gremlin. That's one of the cool things about Gremlins 2. You don't just get regular gremlins, you get genetically enhanced gremlins. They literally put a genetics lab in the movie to be able to create bat gremlin, vegetable gremlin, spider gremlin, a female gremlin who I may be a little strangely attracted to. Don't judge me. You got an electric gremlin. You even have regular gremlins looking different. Like you got that Daffy gremlin with the big googly eyes, or that one gremlin Lenny whose ears are flapped to the side. He's got the buck teeth. Literally every one of those gremlins that are mentioned in that Key and Peele sketch, they're all in the movie. And while the first film was a blend of horror and comedy, Gremlins 2, it is a huge comedy. In fact, a lot of people, myself included, say that it's really a satire, a parody of the first film. That's why I think it's always weird when people are like, which one do you like better, Gremlins or Gremlins 2? It's like, it's kind of hard for me to say because you can't have Gremlins 2 without the first Gremlins, because Gremlins 2 is making so much fun of the first Gremlins. They make fun of the rules, you know, what happens if they cross a time zone? It's always midnight somewhere. I love that stuff. They literally destroy the movie. They literally destroy the film and take over the movie. And what's funny is because I saw it on VHS first, I saw the VHS version. Yes, there's two different versions of Gremlins 2. One has the film version where they take over the movie projector and talks to Hulk Hogan. Yeah, and Hulk Hogan stops the gremlins from attacking the movie and going back to the film. But on the VHS tape, you would get the gremlins flipping through your television and messing up your videotape, and then all of a sudden they're fighting in a gunfight with John Wayne. Whole different thing for Gremlins 2, right? In fact, the only scary thing about that movie is Mohawk. Mohawk is like Stripe 2.0, and he's pretty sinister. He tortures Gizmo throughout the entire film. He attacks Billy. He turns into a spider gremlin, and that's before all the gremlins go into the lobby of the Clamp Tower and sing a musical number, New York, New York. The movie is not even just a parody of the first Gremlins. It's a parody of a lot of things that were happening at that time. It makes fun of cable television because cable was really big at that time. It made fun of business moguls because one of the characters, Daniel Clamp, is definitely based after two very popular people. One person who owns a number of TV stations and used to colorize black and white films, and another person who is a big business owner, and I think he hosted a reality show at some point. And then I forget what happened to him after that. But I hear he's doing something. Just the idea that they set it in New York, that they took this high skyscraper, skyrise, and made it a smart building where everything is being fueled by technology, which is obviously something the Gremlins love to destroy. I think all that's pretty fascinating. And it's kind of interesting now that we kind of have this whole lifestyle today of smart technology and smart things where technology is taking control of a lot of things for us. To see Gremlins kind of make fun of that back in the 90s was actually kind of fascinating because some of that stuff still resonates. Like there's literally a part in Gremlins 2 where a bathroom reminds you to wash your hands. You know what I'm saying? And the movie is also kind of a parody of sequels where it kind of shows that we really had no way of going with this story after the first movie, so let's just do something crazy because it's better to do that than to just do the same movie over again. There's just so much I need to say about Gremlins 2 that I might need to just make a video about it itself. But yeah, I really absolutely love that movie just because I love just how many cool, wonderful, funny gags and things they could do with the Gremlins. Gremlins 2 just has a lot of fun with its premise, and I think that that fun is what resonated with me and what made me not only love Gremlins 2, but love Gremlins as a franchise and completely destroy any fear I ever had for these green monsters. It was gone. It was done. Gremlins had become a complete thing for me, full circle, that I absolutely love to the point where I still talk about it to this day more than maybe most people do. And I admit to that. And whatever else happens with Gremlins in the future, I'm ready to see it. Even though I'm sure they are trying, and at some point we will probably get some kind of Gremlins reboot or sequel of some kind. It's gonna be very interesting to see how it happens, because how do you get past Gremlins 2? It's so out there. How do you try to bring that back to normal reality? Because that is a live action cartoon, and I love it for it. And even though it wasn't a big box office hit when it came out, it's kind of interesting to see the cult status and now full fandom that that movie has over the years, particularly because people have been able to watch it on VHS, on DVD, and now on HBO Max. Nice. Gremlins and Gremlins 2 The New Batch, both available on HBO Max. And HBO Max is even going to be bringing Gremlins back with a brand new animated prequel series, Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai. We get to see the origin story of Gizmo and Mr. Wing, so that's gonna be really cool. I have a lot of movie guilty pleasures that happen to also be on HBO Max. In addition to all the stuff I grew up with, like the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they also have Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. Yeah, I'm serious. Blade, House Party, Little Shop of Horrors, The Little Rascals. They even got the Smurf Show. You know how I love them Smurfs. They got Space Jam, Looney Tunes Back in Action, Speed Racer. They even have Josie and the Pussycats. The Josie and the Pussycats movie. Well, they have the animated series as well as them in outer space, but they also have the movie. I love that movie. I'll probably make a video about that movie in the future. I think it's so cool that they have so many of the movies that I grew up watching from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and of course, all those wonderful classic cartoons. They're all there. Well, you know, certain franchises aren't there because they're at other places, but you know, HBO Max got a lot of them. Click on the link in the description. You can get a 7-day free trial to HBO Max to check out all the movies, TV shows, and cartoons that you grew up with. What do you think of the Gremlins movies, and what is your first movie? Like that first movie that you remember as being like that official, this is a mainstream film, and I'm watching it just like the grown-ups. What was that for you? And if you like these types of stories, then make sure you subscribe. I love you like a play cousin. I'm Audi 5000.